you were a track athlete in Japan?
Yes.
What was that all about?
So that kind of happened accidental, actually. I went to University of Colorado, and I came out of high school from California. And we had an opportunity to run in the USA Championships. And I looked at my coach, and I was like, I can't run in the USA Championships. He's like, why not? I said, because I'm not American. He's like, what? Well, where are you from? I'm like, Japan. And then they looked at me really crazy then because I'm like,
Hang on,
Japanese.
you didn't have a U.S. citizenship when you were here?
I still don't.
What?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yes, I am a Japanese resident. My passport is Japanese. I have a green card.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So Japan doesn't allow a dual citizenship?
I don't know if they allow it, but I just never had one. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Were you born there?
I was.
You were born and raised there?
No, I came over really young. So my dad was in the military, and I came over when I was 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
And grew up here. And I would go back and forth. We had family in Japan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's funny to see me go in the lines at immigration, and I'm in this line, and they're looking at me, and they'll look at my passport, and
Man, I would send you to Guantanamo immediately. This is not a Japanese citizen.
it looks like it. We're pretty funny.
Wow, no
Yeah,
kidding.
Yeah.
Random fact of the day.
That is amazing. As long as I've known you, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you came here, got involved with
track and field.
in Las Vegas. You landed.
No, so I grew up in California.
Okay.
Went to school in University of Colorado, or the Buffalo, go Buffs. And Larry obviously was at Texas A&M, and he was in the lead hurdler there and did some good things. So we ran in the same circles. After I graduated from college, I was trying to figure out what was next, So I decided to run professionally, kind of fell into that. Didn't know if I wanted to or not, but, my senior year in college, I actually made the Japanese Olympic team, and that was not planned, which is kind of...
Hang on a second. If you were in the States, how did you make the Japanese Olympic team?
So there was a coach on staff at University of Colorado who was Japanese.
Okay.
And when he found out that I couldn't go to the USA Championships and that I was Japanese, he's
Interesting.
like, yeah.
What year was that?
95. So my junior year in college. And so I was going home to visit my family anyway. There was a track meet.
Wow.
He's like, I'll sign you up for the track meet.
Wow.
I was there, I won, and lo and behold, it was the national championship.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. I mean,
So then everything started from there.
It wasn't even like a planned thing. I'm going to the Olympics. It was just boom, 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 spur of the
Right,
moment.
yeah.
What Olympics were you in?
1996 in Atlanta, and then 2000 in Sydney.
So I have to ask, I was fortunate enough to go to the Olympics in London in 2012. And being there, you can just feel like the energy, the pressure, all that training really comes down to your event,
Right.
To 10 to 12 seconds.
Right.
What is that pressure like?
Oh my gosh, that. Now imagine, I just graduated from college in '96, so that was my first international competition, true international competition.
Right.
Was the Olympic Games. So to come from college and to step out on the Olympic Stadium, it was insane.
I bet.
It was in Atlanta, so
Wow.
there was some familiarity with being here, in the States and running in a familiar place. But it was amazing. I'd go to the dining commons where all the athletes were in the village, and I remember the Williams sisters being there and looking at them and like, whoa, and seeing all these athletes interact with each other. So it was an amazing experience.
Let me ask you this, Yvonne. Did the Japanese welcome you as one of their own on
They
the team?
did. It was different.
Yeah.
Obviously I looked different. I walked different. I act a little different. So they were very welcoming. It was different though.
Yeah.
So I had to learn, how to not be so American in
Right.
certain situations, and
Yeah.
show the respect that that there was a gender kind of difference in how you react and interact with other people and stuff. And at that time, the federation was a little older Japanese men, and so they had a different expectation as well. So it was great. Before there was a Naomi Osaka, there was an Yvonne
Hello.
Kanazawa.
Hello.
So let that be known.
Hello. And the reason I ask is, I come of Arab descent, Palestinian, and when I'm overseas, they consider me an American. And when I'm here, they consider me an Arab.
Right.
So, it's like you don't know which hat to wear
Right.
sometimes, and
Absolutely.
it's tough to fit in
Yeah.
culture-wise sometimes. But that's interesting. So 2 Olympics back-to-back. Which one was the more memorable of the two?
They were both really memorable. Obviously, '96 being my first international competition, and I remember, and the race was terrible. I actually choked.
Yeah, 96. Isn't that the class that Floyd Mayweather came out of? It is.
Well, that Olympics is like infamous because it was when Michael Johnson broke all those records.
I was right there. I was in that
the
stadium.
200,
no
400.
I was right there at the finish line when it
Oh,
happened.
wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
I still remember that. I was 10 years old.
There was the bombing at the park.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was 96?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are a lot of great experiences, memorable experiences, but I ran like crap. Like it was my first, and I really choked up. The latter part of my race was great, but the start I kind of just froze when the gun went off. But I can remember hearing my mom screaming, and there's 120,000 people, and I could hear my mom, "Go Yvonne," with a little tiny voice, and that kind of stuck to me. Yeah. So I walked out of that stadium real disappointed because I didn't show what I was capable of. But 4 years later in Sydney, there's 4 rounds in track and field, so you got to make every round to get to the 4th round. I only made 3 out of the 4, so I didn't become a finalist, but I was in the top 16. So it was a good experience. It was a lot of discussion about all these different athletes, but it was.
There ain't nothing wrong with being top 16 in the world,
right?
Yeah, it was experience.
Let alone the top 16 in your high school. Wow.